Thank you for being on our weekly More Momentum, because we know that all of you enjoy going to events and getting pumped up and informed and excited and all that. And then most of the time you're left on your own to hopefully implement. So our goal is to bring back all the great professionals that we know, that we believe in, that we get coached by, that have spoken at Momentum Builder year in, year out, and continue the process to remind you of what you should be doing on a regular basis. And just to let you know, you're not alone. We're with you. And this is a tough industry right now. So more important than ever that we all stick together and help each other out and know what's working on a day-to-day, because what maybe was working 3 months ago may not be working right now, or new ideas are in play that's working in this industry right now. And I'm very proud to bring one of my long time, we go back 2 decades, don't we, Cindy?
We do. I love it.
I won't go back to age. We're not going to age ourselves, but it's been a while.
In a long while. I love it.
Yeah. So Cindy's been on the one of the top producers, one of the top 100 producers for decades. She's also one of the most influential women in the industry, bar none. She runs an amazing coaching company that is changing lives. And if you go and follow her on Facebook, you'll see that how engaged and how much she loves her people. It's different because you see a lot of coaches that are, and not saying it doesn't work, but they're more methodical. They're more like, go to the freezer, get the box, here's what you do. Cindy loves on her people and cares about her people like I've never seen before. And she has very simplified a lot of steps. And that's what we like, because sometimes you see a coach and you're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to ever implement that. That is just too much. And what I love about Cindy and why I always bring her to not just to Momentum Builder community, which is, we got some exciting stuff coming together on that. But she helps our team out with just simple steps to improve your business and personal life. So Cindy's got some great stuff to bring to you because she knows us. We're all producers. Cindy and I go way back as top producers and speakers on the tour, from Todd Duncan to Mastermind to Momentum Builder and so forth, and on and on. She's spoken for our company. Just a phenomenal professional. And I know I'm building you up, Cindy, but no pressure or anything,
Thank you, Don. I so appreciate you. You guys are awesome.
Well, thank you for your time, because I know you're busy. I've seen, like, you were just, I follow you. You keep very busy on a regular basis, but you're also a giver. And that's kind of a requirement of all Momentum Builder community members, to be givers. And therefore we all win. And you are definitely a giver and just a great person. And I'm proud to call you one of my closest friends in the industry. And I'm loving what you're bringing to the table today. So I'm going to let you tee that up and share with our wonderful group of Momentum Builder community members. And, I see a lot of my friends out there. Of course, Jimmy Ryan, Jimmy, Jimmy, he's on every single call. Katrina on there. That's pretty cool. Michelle. We got some of our regulars on here. Scott Edwards on here. We got a good group. So Cindy, I'm going to let you kind of take it from here.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this is so fun to be with you. You know how much I respect you and what you've built and created through the Momentum Builder community. I think it's amazing because really, look, I've been through a lot of markets. I've been in this business for too many years, but the reality is this is definitely, I'll call it, in the top 2 toughest seasons I've ever seen in the mortgage industry. And obviously going through owning a company in 2007, 8, and 9 was a very rough road as well. But this is different. And I think this has rattled people to the very core, and nobody got off unscathed. I don't care what kind of producer you are, it has hit the entire country. So I just got off leading my Mortgage Mastermind Elite group today. And one of the conversations we were having on that group this morning was how great it is to be surrounded by like-minded people who are looking at the positive side of this market and what we can do to grow and take advantage of it. Because, when we were at Mastermind Summit last week, Don, everyone was talking, there was so much buzz about what's coming in 2024. and people really predicting that it could be another boom market because of how depressed our market has been. And we know, after, for those of us who have been doing this a long time, it is a cycle industry, and this cycle will change. So the reality is we don't know when, and that's the scary part. But the reality, it's about to come. And so I decided today, after you and I spoke, that really going deep on how to create a 90-day goal plan. We're going into the second quarter of the year. I think people, as we want to finish as strong as we can, given the nature of the current market. And I want you to really get intentional about goal planning, because most people do goal planning at the beginning of the year. I'm a huge believer in creating 90-day goals that are more short-term and sustainable, where we can take action steps like right now to start to move the needle. I always found it difficult to do 1-year plans and 5-year plans, because then the market would change and I would have to adjust my plan. So I just expect going into the second half of this year, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you could put on the goal plan as well. But I'm going to go ahead and share screen here, because I'm going to walk you through. It's actually just my PDF here that I'm going to train you from today. And I created this plan for my own team many years ago, and we've modified it a little bit throughout the years, obviously. But I really decided that I wanted to focus on 90-day goals, and I wanted to put goals. I mean, this is not just a plan for your business. I really believe that for exponential growth, we have to grow as a human being. And, you know, our production grows when we grow as people. So I always think that half this game, and probably more, is the inner game that we need to grow versus the exterior tactical part of our business, although those are certainly helpful. But I want to just walk you through, because one of the things that fascinates me, because I've done so much study around goal planning, and I've done it for the better part of my career, because I've had a coach for the last 40 years. I've never been without one, actually, even when I couldn't afford it. And I do not, I mean, I don't even think, I know I would not be where I am today had I not gotten the guidance of people that had come before me that had created success in our market. So I want you to really look at this, because obviously the importance of goal planning is it helps us move from situation to situation. It actually helps us be less reactive and more proactive in our life, because you think about mortgage and how reactive we can be every day to the circumstance of a deal blowing up or things going sideways, or someone suddenly deciding to pay cash or not move forward on a transaction. There's a lot of things that we can't control. But the thing I love about goals is it gives us action steps to continue to take action to move us forward, and not let the market, you know, dictate our next steps. And if we have a plan, I believe our entire business needs to be put into a system and a plan, because it makes it so much simpler to execute if you have a system and a plan. And then I want you to really think, I love these stats, because this is, to me, where the rubber meets the road. The Harvard study that was done in 1979 showed that 13% of the class that set written goals with no plan made 2 times the money, you know, as the 84% with no goals. So just having the goals, even though you hadn't put pen to paper, it already ups the game to your possibility of success. And then if you become the one that actually writes them down, which I've done my entire career, and whether you're doing it at fillable field or you're writing it down, you know, old school, which I think there's more impact from writing down your goals, because it logs better in our brain. But 3% of the class that had both written goals and a goal plan were making 10 times the money as the rest of the class. And I believe that wholeheartedly, because when I create a plan, I go look at the plan daily, or at least weekly, and I go through, and if I haven't completed something on the plan, it's the reminder. And like, even right after COVID, I gained the 15 pounds, right? Like everybody else did. And I was like, crap, you know, I've got to hire a personal trainer, because I don't like working out. So one of the things I did is, like, I remember having that on my goal plan, and I hadn't executed on that because I'm sure I was procrastinating, because it was the one thing I didn't want to do. But I realized I'd committed to these goals over 90 days. So I was committed to bring them to fruition. So today we're going to go through kind of a 3-step process, and you're going to want to take some notes. You can take a picture of some of these slides, and I will give you an opportunity to get the guide if you'd like this at the end. But we're going to look at my mortgage satisfaction assessment. And with all of my coaching clients, I really want them to do this assessment at least a couple times a year. I think it's really important that we really look in the mirror, we look at our business, and where you were in 2020 is probably completely different than where you're at today. So you would complete your assessment completely differently based on where your business is. So that helps us get clear on what do we need to focus on first in order to build and grow our business. And next, we're going to go through kind of the mortgage roadmap, which is really creating, what do you want to create in this business? What kind of income you want to make? How many families do you want to serve? Getting really clear of putting numbers to it, even though we may be pulling them out of thin air, but it's much more important to have a goal and have a plan as to how you're going to get there. And you can course correct as you go. And then I'm going to show you my actually 90-day mortgage success blueprint, which is just creating goals in 5 key areas of your life. I actually shortened this down a few years ago because it was longer. And I thought, we like things that are simple, right? So I want you to look at mortgage satisfaction assessment. So basically what we're doing here is we're assessing 8 key areas of your business and life. This is primarily a business assessment. I have a life assessment too, but for this, I want you to just score yourself with 0 being least satisfied and 10 being most satisfied. How satisfied are you right now with the number of referral partners that you really feel are committed in your court? Because even just getting off a call with 17 of the nation's top producers, I can tell you none of them are satisfied right now with the number of referral partners in their court because their referral partners are doing half the business. Many of them aren't loyal. So clearly we have to cast a wider net to be successful in the market today. So I want you to score yourself. If you're not satisfied at all, you might be a 2, maybe you're a 7, but you've got some areas that you want to grow in terms of building new referral partnerships. And then I want you to look at your personal production levels. How satisfied are you with those? Again, 0 is worse and 10 is the best. Most people today are definitely not satisfied with their personal production levels because the market's been so off and so little inventory. And then compelling client experience. So this is the deal. We all have an experience, right? The question is your experience compelling? And many people haven't really taken the time to map out what happens when that lead comes in the door. And once they transition into a loan, what does that client experience really entail? And the longer I was in the business, I started getting better and better and better, creating an experience, because that drove about 30% of my business annually from my past client base, because I managed my database extremely well. I highly recommend it as your #1 business goal if you're not doing that right now. But really rate your compelling client experience. Could it improve? And then your marketing execution. Look, we know in 2020 and 21, we didn't need to market. But in 2022 and 23, marketing is essential to our business. We need to be out in front of more people. There are a lot of leads being generated through social media right now. I mean, I'm talking to more and more people that are really dialing in their videos and their educational videos. And not only are they getting direct leads from that, but they're also finding it much easier to build referral partners with realtors because they become the expert. And so, many people really have not adopted that fully, but I'm telling you, social media today, I know it's a blessing and, and a curse, but I think you can't keep your head under a rock. To be successful in today's market, it's a relevancy issue, and you've got to use it to your advantage. We got to pull out all the stops, and I lead a whole course on how to build a marketing plan to execute at a much higher level of production. And then I want you to look at your time, your energy, and your productivity. How productive are you in your day? I know you're busy because there's so much coming at us, and you can fill a day. We all can a mortgage. Easy to fill a day. But are you really taking that time each and every day to build your referral partner network? Are you calling past clients? Are you calling 10 to 20 realtors a day? Are you reaching out? Are you managing your database properly? Like, are you being productive? Because I always look at it, we're really managing our energy. And I raised 3 kids, while becoming one of the nation's top producers. I remember the year I hit over 200 million. I couldn't even believe that was possible. That was never my goal, but that was a product of building systems that when the market aligned, we took it, we were ready to go and ready to take advantage of that market. So my whole focus was I had to create systems so that when I was at work, I was productive, because I wanted to make the greatest impact possible when I was at work. because when I came home, I had 3 little ones to take care of that needed mom. And I wanted to be able to focus on them when I was home. So I got very intentional about my daily activities. And that's a lot of what goal planning is as well. And then high impact team. Look, we know many of you have lost your teams over the course of the last year, and that's been a really difficult thing for many people. But the reality, it's nationwide. Doesn't matter what company you work for. It is a nationwide, problem, if you will. So the reality is we want to generate enough production to make sure we can re-engage our team, because we can't really scale to the levels we want to scale unless we have a team. And solving our production problem solves that problem, and it allows us to hire great people and scale our business. So do you have a high impact team? I mean, that may be no altogether because you lost your team, or maybe you're sharing an LOA, which is great right now. But the reality is that is something we strive for in our business. And then good self-care. I just led a call yesterday with about 22 top producers, and they all said their number one intention for the year was getting into better health, that this year has really leveled a lot of people and they kind of got out of those health practices. So are you taking care of yourself? Because it starts with our health first. We've got nothing if we're not healthy. So I'm going to really encourage you to put you back on the top of your list. Like really put yourself at the top of the list of what am I going to do to take better care of myself? And not just physically, but this is what we have to take care of most, right? The mental capacity to work through and stay positive and keep people motivated during challenging times, which has not been an easy feat this year. And then your work-life balance. Are you intentional about your practices? Are you intentional about being present when you're at home with family? Do you work too many hours? Are you hardly ever home? Are you not doing date night with your spouse? Really rate yourself on that. Are you pleased with the way that you manage your life in your business? So I want you to just score yourself. And I do think if we have access to chat, I love it if you would put in, a couple of areas that need to be your focal point. It may be you need to take better care of yourself. So just put in self-care. It may be, you need to be more productive, but I'd love to hear where you score yourself lowest, because that's usually where you want to really start from when you talk about goal planning.
Yeah, bring it. Let's see what your responses are. I love it.
Got to be honest, guys, because we're all challenged right now, right? I mean, the mortgage industry is challenged, but we got to look at where do we need to start? You can't start. We have a rule at my company, Don, where, I believe we're only allowed 3 cars out of the garage at a time, because there's a lot of shiny object syndrome in mortgage because there's so many things you can follow, but that doesn't mean they've got an ROI. It doesn't mean that they're productive, right? It may just keep you busy, but you've got to really look today at your ROI activities. Where are you generating revenue and where are you building relationships? So I want you to really, you can take a picture of this, or I'll give you the QR code to schedule a call if you want to get the guide. But really, I think you should put pen to paper about looking at where your production was. And we know, obviously, last year wasn't a great year, but I want you to really look at how many families you served and what kind of production do you strive for? What do you know you're capable of? Because I cannot tell you how many stories of clients that I've coached. And one of my favorite stories, was a guy a couple of years ago, Tom Couture, and Tom was doing 38 million a year, but he kept going. He's 40 years in the business. He goes, I've got more in me. I know I'm $100 million a year producer. So he stayed so focused on that goal that he was $100 million a year producer, like waiting to happen. And he said he would do whatever it took, and he did. And he coached with me for 2 years and went from 38 million to 132 million. That's profound growth in any market, right? I mean, it's amazing. So, but he speaks in terms of families served, as did I. How many people do you want to help and support? You guys make such a big impact in the world right now with mortgage. I mean, it's such a great field. And then I want you to look at where are your gaps? And there's probably going to be more gaps today than there even were a couple of years ago, right? Because, when we're busier, I don't know why we fill the gaps better. When we're slower, we don't pay as much attention. So think about where are the gaps in your business. Many people's gaps will be, well, gee, a lead comes in the door. It may go into a CRM. Some people don't really have a place that it goes, and you absolutely need a system to track your leads. But how are you following up on your leads? So a lot of people, particularly during 2020, when business was through the roof, I was coaching so many people around tracking leads because there was such a gap and people were losing hundreds of leads. They were just falling out the windows because no one was attentive. So think about where the gaps are. Maybe you know you need a marketing plan. Maybe you're not really on social. Maybe you just are not comfortable doing video. Well, newsflash, nobody's comfortable doing video, right, Don? Like,
Well, it's funny, everybody gets nervous about it, like, oh, I don't do well in front of the video, or I don't look good in front of video. You know, I always tell people, because, you know, you've been on video forever. We've done from radio show to TV show, that, you know, we tell people all the time, that's just the way you look. There's no, you're not hiding it. And you make people understand that that's you, that's Don, that's Cindy, that's the way we look, and that's who we are, and let them get to know you and trust you.
that is the whole point, is it makes this more relatable, because the great thing about video versus a static post is that you can feel each other's energy. And look, I am a huge believer, well, it's always the case. Energy is everything, which is why I'm such a big believer in morning practices. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I just feel like energy is everything. Everything in this universe is energy. And so we've got to manage our own. It's such a big part of us being successful, is getting this straight, our heads straight first, and being able to bring our best selves forward. So basically this plan, like I said, it was developed for me personally initially and for my team. And it was really teaching people how to master the power of intentional choice. Because when I named my company The Defining Difference, I had done a lot of my own soul searching and research, and really realized that the defining difference for me in life and in business is a choice. We have the ability to wake up tomorrow and make a different choice if what we're doing today does not serve us. And that's in every area of our life. We can shift things. They don't have to be huge shifts. We can make small shifts very, very simply by, maybe I made a choice a year ago, because I'm a late night girl, to start setting an alarm to go to bed. And that seems silly because most people set an alarm to wake up, but I naturally will go to bed late, and I always have. And so I started setting my alarm at 10:30. I recently started setting it for 10 because I want to get up earlier, because I will not miss my morning practices, because I'm pouring into people all day long to help them with their challenges each and every day. So I've got to be strong. I've got to be on my best game in order to pour into other people all day to help them get over some of their challenges, right? And help them come up with other strategies. So we're going to look kind of quickly here at these 5 key areas: your work, you know, your career, what you're going to do in terms of your goals there. And I want you to start thinking about, what are you going to implement in your business in the next 90 days? Get very intentional. I want you to think about your own health and wellness. I want you to look at your family and relationships. Are you showing up in your best light? Are you showing up in your best light for your team and for your company and for your clients and for your realtor partners or referral partners? You know, but really look at how well are you showing up in the world, or could you do a little better job of being a little more present, a little more positive, a little more focused. And then I want you to look at your personal business growth. Like, what are you doing to grow? Not just that tactical steps that you do to grow your business, but what are you doing personally to grow? Maybe you really need to take a class on social media, or you need to hire a social media expert, or, you know, maybe you realize you need to do some personal development work about emotional intelligence. You need to build relationships in a more meaningful way. But where do you need to grow? Maybe you need to study the markets more. You know, maybe you need to connect to MBS Highway or Mortgage Coach and really get more attuned as to the market. But think about where you want to grow. And then I really believe we don't talk enough about personal finances. There's been a lot of money made in the mortgage industry, and a lot of people have lost everything because they didn't take care of their money when they were making it. And we don't talk enough about how to manage money and how to manage debt and how to get intentional, you know, about our life and our business. So I want you to think about 3 career stretch goals for you in the next 90 days. Keep in mind, this is 90 days, but I want you to think bigger. You know, the beautiful thing of coaching is, and I have a coach personally, but the thing about coaching is it helps you take bolder action, and you'd make bolder choices than you would sometimes make on your own, because you have somebody to help keep you stay on track, someone to help filter ideas through, and somebody to give you a little bit of additional accountability and push you out the door. to take some bigger steps. And even for those of you that may be leaders in your organization, like how can you think a little bit bigger and think a little bit different? I mean, I walked away from a massive mortgage career that I truly loved and had been in for 30 years to start from scratch with a yellow pad and launch a training and coaching company. Now, if you don't think that was scary, scariest thing I've ever done. But the reality, it was a calling, and I knew it was my purpose, and it was my next step in life was to create a coaching and training company to pour that I'd all learned over the years into other people to help them be successful too. So I want you to think about what could that be for you. Maybe you know that you need to build 5 new referral partnerships in the next 90 days. Like your life depends on it, and it's a non-negotiable, which means you've got to get in front of more people. And then with goals, what we need to do is put our 3 action steps behind each goal. What action are you going to take to build those 5 new referral partners? How many, let's assume they're realtors for a minute. How many realtors are you going to call? And do you have a system and a process around making those calls? Do you have a value proposition for them? What could your value proposition be? Maybe your strength is marketing. Maybe your strength, you're a mini Barry Habib, right? And the financial markets. Maybe you're a structure guru on loans. You do a lot of non-QM difficult loans, whatever it may be. Maybe you've got some cool products that you have to offer that are niches that you haven't gotten out to the market in a big way. But you need to get really clear on what you're willing to commit to. These aren't words on paper. This is what are you willing to commit to? Because for me, in all areas of my life, failure is not an option. It's not an option. If I'm going to go to work every day, I want to be as impactful as humanly possible. And I'm committed to change lives for a living. So what are you willing to commit to? And we need to get out of the doldrums of the market's been down. Okay, I got clients right now that have created their own success in this market because they're going to win no matter what it takes. They're going to meet more people. They're going to be in front of more people. They're going to serve more people, even if it doesn't translate to business overnight. So think about, and I would love, love, love if any of you are brave to share one of your #1 goals into the chat. I mean, I really love the part of goal. This is another part of goal planning. You've got to share your goals. That's the #1 thing because it creates energy. That's why we get accountability partners for our goals. So don't just create the plan. I want you to share the plan as well. It's a really important part. Next, I want you to look at your health and fitness goals. If you are not where you want to be, or you're slacking in you all know what area you need to up-level your health and fitness. And maybe through this, it's like you don't have a morning routine. You press snooze on your alarm 3 times. You don't like getting out of bed, particularly now. But the reality is morning practices changed my life. And a lot of leaders talk about it, but you talk to almost any leader and they all have developed morning practices. And for me, I do start with my coffee. Next, I do a gratitude prayer. I also have a gratitude journal that sits next to my bed. So sometimes I use that. I do a 15-minute meditation. And if you would have told a type A loan originator that I was going to learn to do meditation, I would have told you were crazy. And it has become a practice that I love. And I use insighttimer.com. It's a downloadable app. It's my favorite. You can put it on by time. Start with 2 minutes if you think you can't do it and work your way up to 10. But it creates a space in our brain where we can be more creative. It gives us great ideas for how we can build and grow our business. And it's such a healthy practice because it lowers our blood pressure. It's got so many health benefits to it. If you've never tried it, I highly recommend you give yourself a 30-day test because we know that it's got to become a habit over time. I always do some kind of education every morning, whether it's listening to a mortgage coach training, whether it's listening to Barry Habib, whether I do a lot of personal development courses online. I subscribe to mindvalley.com, which has amazing courses in there. And I'm always taking a course because I want to continue to learn. And the more I learn and the more I can teach other people. So health and wellness, like I said, I hired a physical fitness trainer because I hate working out. And I committed to that 2 years ago. And I signed up for 1 class and she said, that's ridiculous. And I finally said, okay, so I signed up for 20. Granted, it's expensive, but I have not missed, except for when I've been out of town for the last 2 years. And I have a physical fitness trainer 2 times a week, or I won't work out. I don't love it, but I kind of like my class now because it's a habit and it makes me feel so much better. So if you're not working out at all, that's the number one thing for mental wellness that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm passionate about it, even though I hate working out. Family and relationships. If you're married, are you being a great spouse? It's really, when you think about you, we can ask yourself the question. I have 3 kids, even though they're grown, I'm always asking myself, if one of my relationships is off, what can I do to take, one of the questions I love, and I used to ask my kids this, which they hated, but on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how would you rate our relationship? And I can tell you, when my kids were in high school, they weren't so thrilled. But then the next question is, what would it take to make it a 10? And they actually tell you what they need from you, right? And it's kind of a cool question. And so I worked on becoming a better parent, and I had to change some of my own behaviors because, being a top originator, helping co-running a $1.2 billion branch, we were building a region here in Southern California. It was a lot, and raising 3 children, but I was committed to be the best parent I could be as a working mom. And I had to develop practices and non-negotiables. So I strongly encourage you to think about non-negotiables. In fact, Don, you'll appreciate this. I remember I did a video a couple of weeks ago, and I had to do 4 takes to do the video because it was me sharing an experience of my first son going off to college, and how I came upstairs and I sat on his bed, and knowing how much I'd worked through his life. And I started to cry, like, profoundly. And I said, there's no do-overs. And it was this like aha moment of, there's no do-overs. We got one shot as a parent to make this thing right as best we can. And I'd been a good mom and I had a lot of support, but the reality is I had 2 kids left at home, and I knew I needed to create some new non-negotiables. And I called Sue Woodard because she had a younger daughter. And I said,
Sue.
I said, Sue, there's no do-overs. You gotta take more time with Emily. And it's just a good reminder, right? We all need reminders in our lives. So think about maybe where you need to be, you need to improve in a relationship. Maybe you have an estranged relationship from a parent that needs to be repaired. And your personal growth goals, like, this excites me. I get super excited about personal growth. So, I really want you to think about how you want to grow. Maybe you don't have any clue how to use Chat GPT and you want to learn about that. Sign up for a class. Maybe you want to take a class on social media. Maybe you want to take a class on photography. A couple of years ago, my friends were like, all you do is work. You need hobbies. So I thought about the 2 things I love the most, which is photography and cooking. So I took a cooking class and I took a photography class. But it was really fun. And so that was something I wanted to do to personally grow, which also kind of became a hobby. So that was kind of cool. And then this is the thing I want you to really pay attention to. And right now, personal finances are tough for a lot of people in mortgage, even the most experienced of loan officers, but really getting intentional, looking at your debt. And I'll tell you, when I went through a divorce after a long-term marriage, and I really had to look at my own situation, and I looked at my credit cards and I thought, I got to take control of my personal finances. And I made a plan, and I started with my higher credit card balance, and I paid it off, and I cut up the card, and I kept going through this practice. So all my cards, every department store card, everything was done. And I kept 2 cards, my business card and my personal card. And it's the only 2 cards I carry right now, and have been for years. And it makes life simple. And I don't get lured by the 15 or 20% off. I have 2 cards. And I don't carry debt, but that took a plan. So I want you to really think about, what do you need to do to start taking control of your finances? Maybe you're just completely overspending, and maybe you're not saving. And I'll tell you, if you have kids, starting a 529 plan is the best thing I ever did. I just want you to really think about, what goals do you have over the next 90 days as you begin to generate more revenue from hopefully additional production, that you can start to be intentional about paying yourself first, even if it's a small amount to start. Because I promise you, I'm living experience, the compounding effect works, but you got to start somewhere. and start small if that's what you need to do. But you've got to be intentional about your finances. Really important. And for those of you that don't have any idea what your goals are, there's a couple of sheets here that you can look at that will give you some ideas of some things that you could do, to put on that list for goal planning. And we've hit every category here. The one thing I suggest is you've got to be very specific in your goals. Very, very specific. So you want to, like, if you're going to lose 15 pounds, okay, there has to be a by when. And what are your action steps? Okay, we're going to get rid of all sugar in the house. We're going to stop drinking alcohol. We're going to, get rid of starch, whatever it may be. We're going to work out 3 times a week. You've got to be very specific as to what you're going to do. You're going to work out 3 times a week. Well, what time of day and what activity are you going to do? And then you need an accountability partner to keep you accountable to your goals. And that can be a friend, that can be a loan officer in your company. It can be your coach, but you need to get an accountability partner. And so there's several different suggestions here of things that you can put on your goal plan if you're not certain what those are for you. And then just, if you want, I'm going to give you a QR code. If you have any interest, you can just pop your phones up here. I have 3 coaching programs. We designed 3 different programs for 3 different levels of business. My High Mortgage Mastermind Elite Group, we take 18 people. We launched in September. We've got 12 spots left for that program. And it's where I pour my heart and soul. It's a high-level mastermind group. We're together for a year. If you have interest in learning about that, if you're an originating branch manager or mid-tier producer that wants to be top tier or used to be a mid-tier producer and you want to get back to that, I really encourage you to reach out, and I'll give you a QR code if you want to sign up to get a call. And then we do private coaching. I have 13 amazing coaches that are all vetted by me. They've all gone through my programs. They're all best in class. We have a great private coaching platform with 2 different levels based on your origination level. And then I've got my all group program. It's $97 a month to start, and then it rolls to $297. No contract. You can leave it at any moment. But if you're just looking for some support, I personally believe every mortgage originator in America right now needs a coach. Doesn't need to be Cindy Ertman, but I believe everybody needs support during this season. So just log this QR code, or you can also go to my website, which is cindyertman.com, CINDYERTMAN.com. And there's a little button at the top that says schedule your strategy call. There is a resource page with some great resources. I've got a lot of videos on my video page of trainings that I've done. So, I try to pour as much into people as I can, but I would love it if you are interested in learning more about coaching, for you to schedule a short strategy call with me or the team, just because I tell you, it makes all the difference. Makes all the difference for your mindset, and makes all the difference to be able to get to the next level. So I just, as you know, Dawn, I live and breathe support for mortgage growth. It is my whole world. I wake up with strategies at 2 a.m. So I am super passionate about helping people grow in this business. I believe in what we do makes such a big difference. And I think we've got a really strong market to come, and I want to help people prepare.
Well, thank you, Cindy. That was good stuff. And it's very obvious. I love how positive you are. Right now we need that more than ever. Mindset's super important. And we're going to take some questions here. So prepare your questions. And I have a guest that I'm going to bring on that will kind of support what you're talking about. But I will say I have always had a coach, that always, because regardless whether it's either producing or mindset or health or whatever, you need those accountability partners. That's why we bring you on, that's why we have this weekly call. That's why we have our Momentum Builder app, which you need to, pull up and be part of. And we're creating our Facebook page for that, because you mentioned accountability. And I mentioned at the beginning of it, just not being alone in this, because it's really, you talk to a lot, and a lot are challenged. They wonder if it's something they're doing or they aren't doing or whatever. And a lot of times, yes, of course, you can always be doing more, as you mentioned, but a lot of us are challenged right now. So it makes it challenging, but I love that you simplify. I have a whole page of notes. I take notes on all these calls, and you simplified it. I know a lot of you are going to look at this and go, I know those things. I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but you lay it out very simplified on key areas to really be honest with yourself about where you stand, and key areas to be intentional, and key areas to adjust what you need to adjust. And I love non-negotiables, which you have to have in any market, because isn't it weird, Cindy, that you and I have been in this industry for decades? No matter what market it is, you're always busy. So you're either busy when it's slam 2021, 20 and 2021. We were just trying to handle the leads as fast as we could and help our clients out as best as we could, because we don't want to let them down. But then now we're super busy trying to create more business. So we're just as busy, if not more busy. So it's important where you put your time and efforts and where your mindset is. And, perfect example, like you mentioned, I love the morning routine. Once I changed to that, it changed my life, because at the end of the day, the chances of you going to the gym, some of you might be able to do it, and I'm impressed, but our days are crazy and you don't know when they're going to end. If you're going to, pursue business, sometimes you're like, shoot, I didn't know I had to go to that event. I didn't know my client wanted me to, my agent wanted me to call the client at 8 o'clock at night. Therefore, I can't go to the gym. I like first thing in the morning, I go get it done, and it pumps me up for the entire day, because A, I got it done, and B, it increases my metabolism and I'm all excited. And I start off early. I start off 5 o'clock in the morning, and I get more done by 10 a.m. than most do in an entire day. So
Right.
I love all this.
So true.
Steps.
Look, if you have any questions, it doesn't have to be about goal planning. If you have any questions or any challenges you want to address while I'm here real time, I'm here for you. So anything you want to address or throw out there, bring it on. I love Q&A. It's like my favorite thing to laser coach people. So look, it is a tough time. And I think it is about getting super intentional about our daily activities, because what used to work isn't always working. And I think we've got to we got to come at this from 3 or 4 different sides collectively, because we're going to hit people in different ways. And I loved it, because one of my clients this morning, she's just starting to get super active with social media, and she posted a video and she couldn't believe, and it's a great educational video series that she did. And I commented on her video last night, and she goes, oh my gosh, she goes, like 10 realtors that I don't even know commented on my video. And she goes, so I DM'd all of them, and I got meetings with 6 of them. And that was since yesterday. I mean, that's the coolest thing ever, right? Like, she took action.
Right. So we have a question from good old Jimmy Ryan. He always has good questions. And then I'm going to bring on Troy Williams, because he has taken action since Momentum Builder. He learned from you and quite a few of the speakers at Momentum Builder, because there was intentional. Remember, I made sure you and everybody gave actionable items based on today's market, not what was happening in 21 and 20, but what's happening now. And I have a friend, he's a good friend of mine, and he works with us, and I know him well, and I'm so proud of what he's done to take action, that I want others to know that you can do it and what his results are. Because right now, a lot of you out there, like I have a whole team like you, and that are challenged. They're like, what the hell is up with this market? But somebody's made some actionable changes, and I want him to share that. But I'll let you answer Jimmy Ryan's question of how do you reset after having a bad day or a couple of bad days? Because we're going to have them right now. Sorry, we just are.
You're not.
You're going to lose loans. You're going to lose agents. You're going to, people are going to drop out last minute right before funding because there is a problem with the property or the seller wouldn't cooperate. It's crazy right now.
It's the worst it's ever been in terms of that. And so we just, on my mastermind call just a couple hours ago, we were addressing this, and there's some big producers in that group, but it was so interesting because one was saying that she lost a deal yesterday that she spent the last 6 months working on, and those fall hard, so she was still reeling from that and really down and really bummed. And then another mortgage originator, and she's a big producer, and she jumped in and she goes, you know what? We have a different motto today. Like we let it go because it's out of our control. And one of the things that I did as a leader is I taught myself a very important lesson. I'm sure I learned it from a coach along the way, is really look at what can I control, what can I influence, and what's out of my control. And so whenever I get into that space, Jimmy, the one thing I say to myself is it in my control? That one's not in your control. If they leave you for whatever reason they're leaving, unless you just did a crummy job, but that's not why most people are leaving today, right? They're leaving. Many of them are just not closing on the house. So it could be a myriad of different things. But the reality is we've got to shift our mindset as to what you can control and what you can influence. And you just got to go, okay, it's time to go on to the next, because it doesn't serve you or them. But I will also tell you one other thing that's kind of interesting is one of my clients, she has the greatest strategy, and I've never heard it from anywhere else. This is Michelle Town out of Denver, big producer. She has this campaign. She goes, I know you dumped us, but we love you anyway campaign. And it's kind of cool because she puts in her calendar for 30 days later to check in with that person. And she calls them to see how their closing went, to make sure everything went okay. And then she sends them a very tiny little gift. But she ends up getting so much referral business from people that dumped her because she doesn't just sit in it. She goes, okay, they go into this campaign over here, and she's gotten a lot of referral business because a lot of those people go to another lender, but they're not happy with their experience. And they wish they had stayed put. So just a different way to spin, but what can you
like that.
What you can influence?
That's a great campaign, no doubt. Hey, Sonia, can we bring up Troy Williams?
Sure.
I'd like Troy to share his results. He sent us a very nice, when your heart and soul is like us. We're this is our legacy right now. This is what we want to leave after being in the industry for over 3 decades, is how do we help more people to improve their lives better and get the shortcuts and the actionable people and the coaches and the tools and everything. But Troy, and thank you for the email, because you didn't have to take the time to do that, but he sent a beautiful email that we're going to use as a testimonial about saying, hey, since Momentum Builder, that was one of the most powerful 3 days of my career. He explains, what he's got and what he's done since then. And it's like the best email we could have ever. Gino and I were like, literally, I'm tearing up just seeing it, because we're like, cool, we're impacting people, and especially a friend like Troy, even more so because I know him and I know what he's doing. So Troy, would you share a little bit of where you were at and where you're at now and why? Because we all need these success stories, because right now it's like, damn, I'm just getting beat up, literally beat up every day. And you've turned your whole mentality around, and I see success.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, love you guys. It's funny. You got brought up in a different conversation yesterday with another agent out in Valencia, and brought up Taylor, and it's like, those guys. And I'm like, Don and Gino. And so long story short, you've impacted me.
I don't know what the context was.
It was nothing but good things, I promise. But he brought up Skyline days. I mean,
oh my goodness.
And so, I always ranted and raved about you guys anyways, from the early days to what you have grown, and have truly just idolized you behind the scenes. And then seeing Momentum Builder and actually taking the fire hose of information. And at night in Vegas, so one time in Vegas, I was back to my room, by 11, right? It was so much info, I was beat, but I actually wanted to make it work for me. And so instead of trying to put into action everything I learned, I would just start taking tidbits, like a one-line info from something. For Sean Harrow, for example, the biggest thing from him was how he approached his agents. He didn't go after everybody. He just went after people that he related to in hobbies like rock climbing, etc. Like, okay, check, I can do that. That's easy. On social media, it's pretty easy to find people like that. And then the big one was Todd Duncan, even at that luncheon. I had asked a question because I'd spent the past, my whole career, let's put it that way, but really intentionally over the past 18 months, trying to build up that agent database of consistent referrals. I feel like I'm a solid producer, numbers are solid producer, but I always felt I was chasing that extra deal. And especially in a market like this, I was almost uncertain every day of the future. And it wanes on you. It waned on me. I got 2 little ones. And I asked that question to Todd in our lunch, and he goes, don't go after any new ones. I went, okay, well, let me hear more. And it was basically, my reason for the question is, I'm very analytical. My business model and the products that I deal in, the non-QM space, is kind of my niche and jumbo. I use Mortgage Coach. I use all the tools, giving the agents what they need to build their business, but nobody was reciprocating it. it was like, oh, cool, thanks for saying it to me. I see it, but no action was taken. One, well, this is a waste of my time, not getting business from it. And when he said to just stop doing it, focus on your book of business, which like many, I have a large book of business. And I started going back and intentionally targeting kind of the top 50 and then narrowed it down from there of who's going to be my first one I'm going to reach out to the day I get home. I literally pulled into the airport, got on the phone, started calling these people. And I went down the path of how am I going to actually see the most ROI from this? Let's put back the business hat on. Yes, we love everybody. I want to help everybody. You know, morals, ethics are all there. But at the end of the day, is my time worth it right now? Because time is valuable and I want to build in this marketplace. And so I started with a client that I knew had a large portfolio. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, fast forward, well, that client had 9 properties. We were literally pulling cash out of all 9 properties, going to buy 4 more properties and setting it up for 13 refinances in the next 12 months. So that was a 26 deal swing. Instead of going after the agent that's only going to give you maybe your first referral 60 days out. And then I started thinking longer and I went, okay, it's a limited inventory market. I get that. It just furthered my stop going after the agents. To me personally, it's what works for me. I know that's not everybody's model, I promise. But for me, I went, there's 15 listings in Canal Valley. So even if I got all 15, that's 15 listings.
Right.
I'm never going to get that. Like, okay, I can get 1,000 TBDs, but they're not going to convert because there's only 15 properties. And so
Everybody's
again,
problem right now.
I really did take more of a business hat out of everything from Momentum Builder and immediately put it into action with those types of steps. Now, the last piece from a mental state that really waned on me for a long time, and I'm getting way better at it. And Donna, you probably knows, but I'm a people person. I'm a people pleaser. I like to be out there, talk. I like to know everybody. And so same
You're
thing.
not
with
shy,
client.
Troy.
No, not shy at all, you know, but at the end of the day, that isn't a good business model to me, right? Like my morals and ethics will never change. But again, this is my career and I make a living doing this. How am I going to scale my business? And being a people pleaser wasn't the answer. So I started saying no to clients, which I don't do, but I literally started saying no. I'm sorry, you know, this is this. It's going to be difficult. If you would like to proceed, it's going to take 60 days. And if they don't, cool, they walk away. But if not, all right, I have it set up. It's not the top priority. I'll get to it on this day and we'll do it from there, or I'll have my team do it. And so all my energy and focus started approaching other people. And I say that too, because I stopped caring what people thought. I know that's super cliche, but I struggle with that still to this day. I care what people think. And, you know, from senior leadership at PRMG, I mean, we talk about over and over and over again how much I can go on about this company. We all can, but it usually appears the same message. Target realtors, conventional, FHA, Govy. And I always felt like the black sheep of the family here because I do jumbo, non-QM, super creative stuff. And after Momentum Builder, I literally, my entire business model changed where I went, no, I'm that guy. So I will be the specialist there. So I tailored my focus away from agents back to my book and then started focusing on that niche product industry, which what type of clientele is that? For me, not just high net worth or jumbo, it was self-employed investment clientele. So I started connecting with fix and flip brokers, get their exit loans. Notes are coming due. Maybe they haven't sold, right? And so I started getting a few referrals. Then I started doing a couple of fix and flip deals. And then from there, that has spawned out now where my bread and butter is in that non-QM commercial development space, private money, which we have access to all this, bank statement, et cetera. And what I'm finding is that strategy is actually connecting me with the top agents in the industry. For example, I have a phone call after this with Tarek from Fix and Flop or whatever. Flop and Flip. Yeah, because I have clients literally looking at 2 of his properties. So indirectly, I'm now getting reconnected with the top agents. And then the conversation, instead of 21-day close, you know, we're competitive rates, everything that we say that we have that we shouldn't talk about anyways, I'm not talking about it. You know, I presented with an agent in Arizona. She happens to be literally the top agent in Arizona. And I brought up a 2-1 buy down and a bank statement program to her in our conversation. And I was trying to give her actually a referral because an investment client was looking to buy out there. Long story short, that has turned 180 degrees where her own personal escrow, her personal property she's buying right now is in my pipeline.
In fact, why don't you let them know what's in your pipeline right now? Because we're getting close on time, and this is super great stuff. And I want to Cindy's closing remarks as well, but let them know what that's converted into, because a lot of us get leads, but you're converting them into deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to pull up the email I sent you actually, because that was
I have it here.
All my numbers. So my biggest thing was I went from targeting no referral partners after Todd Duncan telling me not to I've gained 16 of them. And my basis for that is they've sent me 2 apps minimum each. Leads generated, it says on here it was 107 from the time of Momentum Builder through June 1st. It's actually 117. Apps taken is 68 from that time span. Let's see, where else do I have here? Current units in process. So as of right now, there's 39 escrows opened.
That's more than a lot of branches, dude.
So it's been fun too, more than anything. I do not dread working. I'm working harder than I did through the boom, and it's fun. And the phone is literally ringing, just what I was saying at the beginning, from more of a residual income standpoint. They're just ringing every day with a borrower, a lead, and they're not coming from my approach to a, in the street, let's go have coffee realtor. I just took a different approach, found my niche, stuck to it, and don't care what anybody else thinks. I just think this is the path that's working for me. And so far it's going pretty well.
Nice, Troy. Thank you for sharing that, buddy, that there's other options out there. Change the game, because if you're just like everyone else, then you're just like everyone else. So thank you for sharing that, Troy. I thought Cindy would get a kick out of that too, because we're all looking for success stories, and it's tough out there. Like I said, I'd say, 8 out of 10 loan officers are struggling and frustrated with their production. They have freaking pre-quals up the yang. Like you said, you're astute enough, Troy, to say, oh, great. So what if I have all these pre-quals? There's 15 homes. How many deals can I possibly get? So you change the game some. So I really dig on that. And thank you for sharing, Troy. Very cool. I'm proud of you, dude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. Honestly, life-changing was that event. I swear, I'm not just fluffing this up. I mean, I sent you that email out of nowhere.
Like I said, we didn't ask for this email. That was very cool of you to share that. And it'll be life-changing. Hopefully those who are smart enough to be on this call just got pearls of wisdom that others don't get, just because you took the time out of your busy day trying to create business to get new tips from Cindy and from Troy on how to change the game and how to improve your business and how to get to the other side of this. So thank you, Troy. And Cindy, I'm gonna let you close out. Any closing thoughts or any last questions for anyone?
One thing that I want to just really honor you, Troy, because one thing that you said that, and I did this my whole career, like being, I was on the faculty of Loan Toolbox for 17 years, going to their conferences every year, and then became a presenter there. But the reality is, I had people that would leave that conference that were on my own team going, I'm not getting, they leave after the first day, right? I didn't get any value from today. And then I would stay to the bitter end. And it was in like that second to last presentation that I got the golden nugget, where I'd be like, oh my gosh, that I went home and implemented it, and it changed the whole game. And so the fact that you were like, I'm there to learn, and I'm here to really, instead of just going out to party with the guys, is such a big deal, because there's so much content. And I shared with Dawn how impressed I was with Momentum Builder, because being on stages all over the country for so many years, they did such a great job and such great speakers and content. But the fact that you went back to your room and drilled it down into the bite-sized nuggets, my whole thing was only 3 takeaways that I could come back and implement with the team or they'd kill me. But it's like, pick those 3 things. You pick the nuggets that you really wanted to integrate. And I love that you created a niche, which is such the deal right now, to know who you are and know what your specialty is, to be able to go market that niche. One of my clients has the same niche, and she's killing it. She actually got into a big builder because of that niche, and she's now in 6 states for that niche right there. So good on you. Just want to give you congratulations.
Way to go, Troy. And like she said, way to implement. And it's, Cindy, you'll enjoy. Remember, I was talking to you about Momentum Builder 2024, which will be February 20th